Good evening. We'll open Tuesday, September 7th, 2021, 6 p.m. meeting of the Union County Board of Commissioners. And as usual, we'll start with an invocation. And Commissioner Simpson, I believe you have it this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm guessing many of you, like me, have been absorbed by the events of the last several weeks. The times we find ourselves in generate a host of emotions. For me, that has been tremendous feelings of anger. I don't know, maybe it was divine providence that I was given this opportunity this evening, but despite the reason, it has caused me to reflect on my emotions. Initially, I tried to think of someone I could call on to pray because I knew my heart wasn't in the right place and it shouldn't be me. Then I thought I'll take a neutral stance and just ask for a moment of silence so I could continue to simmer internally. I then remembered that it was I who explained that the purpose of an invocation was to offer a solemn request for help or support. So if you choose, please bow with me as I make that request. Heavenly Father, as we join together this evening to address the issues impacting our county, we ask your presence among us. We find ourselves in an atmosphere filled with anger. Anger over the state of our economy, anger and distrust with our healthcare systems and administration, and the impact on our freedoms and peace of mind, anger with our educational system as it attempts to deal with the presence of COVID, and particularly with our government, local, state, and national, for what we consider failure on so many fronts. Help us to remember, Lord, that anger is not an unholy emotion. We all experience righteous indignation when we feel a sense of injustice over the handling of an issue or treatment of others. Amen. We can also fall victim to feelings of rage, resentment, or become vengeful over these same issues. Lord, help us as a board to separate the issues from the individuals. May we act with humility, with discernment, and with justice as we deliberate the business before us. Father, as we continue to deal with the uncertainty of this disease, I pray for healing for those affected, endurance for those responsible for the care of all who suffer, and for open-mindedness for those whose procedural decisions impact the lives, liberty, and property of others. As always, we pray for the safety of those who serve to protect our lives, liberty, property, and freedom. I offer a special prayer for our country and for any and all who share an allegiance to its ideals, wherever they may be. Shelter each of them with your love and grace. Finally, Father, as we approach the anniversary of 9/11, even though it has been 20 years, the wounds and the pain are still fresh for so many. We pray for their healing. Lord, we know that you are a merciful and gracious God, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast mercy. Help us, Father, to strive to be the same. In Christ's name I pray. Amen. Please join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we have the NACO Awards, and Michelle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board, tonight we have some employee recognition. Our first item are our NACO Awards. As I think many of you are aware, the National Association of Counties, also known as NACO, honors innovative, effective county government programs that strengthen services for residents through annual achievements awards. And this year, Union County is being recognized for 3 of those awards. And we have staff here to be recognized. The first achievement is in the category of libraries for the library's Small Business Support Program. We have Nina Chaffin and Lindsay Schufert. I'm going to recognize all 3, and then we'll let them come up and get their recognition. Then we have an achievement award in the category of health for the Behavioral Health Collaborative. And for this award, we have with us tonight Ashley Lance, Christina Neal, and Mindy Hewley. And then third, we have the Achievement Award in the category of Civic Education and Public Information for the development and accomplishments of the Public Communications Team. And tonight we have Catherine Brown, Liz Cooper, Brent Ayers, Lawrence Cooley, and Christopher Mumpower with us for that award. So on behalf of the county's management team, we want to thank them for the great work they've done and give them an opportunity to be recognized with a photograph with the board, and then we'll go into our next award ceremony too. Thank you. Oh, we got one more.
One minute, here comes Chris.
All right, we get a couple. All right.
It's almost good as Caribbean.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Good.
Best part of the meetings, be able to recognize our employees.
One, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. Cool.
I'll go ahead and do the next one if you'd like. The next award recognition is for NC3C Awards. NC3C is the North Carolina City and County Communicators Organization. Annually, they recognize great local government communicators that foster achievement among their members by showcasing top-level work. NC3C has awarded Union County's Public Communications Team 3 awards in the 2021 Excellent in Communications Awards. And this team, again, is Catherine Brown, Liz Cooper, Lawrence Cooley, Brent Ayers, and Christopher Mumpower. And they won 3 awards this year. First place for digital technology for our digital employee newsletter, UC Insider. Second place for digital technology, digital external newsletter / blog for our Union County Update, and second place for our social media campaign, #UC Stay Home. So again, we'd like to recognize this team. Mr. Chairman, if you'd be so kind as to provide them, I think, with their award that they have, and we'll get one more photograph. Thank you very much.
Lynn, do you have it? Here, sir, I didn't do anything.
All right, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Next, we have our informal comments. Each speaker must address the board from the lectern and begin with their remarks by giving their name, stating whether they are a resident of Union County, indicating the municipality within which they reside, if any, and stating the topic about which they intend to speak. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to make remarks. Speaker may not yield his time or his or her time to any another speaker. Speakers may not discuss matters which are subject to public hearings and must be courteous in their language and presentation. Restatements of repetitive comments by the same speaker, whether in the same meeting or separate meeting, may be ruled out of order. Personal attacks will not be tolerated. Speakers may leave written comments and supporting documentation, if any, with the Assistant County Manager seated to your right. And first, we have Brian Helms.
Good evening. My name is Brian Helms. I'm a proud resident of Union County, unincorporated. Thanks for allowing me to speak again tonight. I'd like to first thank this board for all that you've done to keep Union County free of mask mandates. What is easy and what is right are often two different things, and the stance that you have elected to not mandate masks has not been easy, but it has been right. As we sit here today, Union County is facing a crisis. Make no mistake, this is not a crisis of health, nor is it a crisis of mask wearing. We are facing a crisis of inconsistency and government overreach in regards to discriminatory COVID quarantine protocols for our schools. The quarantine protocols put into effect by the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services and the local DHHS, headed by Dennis Joyner, assume that mask wearing is the solution to all of our problems. The truth is that masks are actually not beneficial in controlling the spread of COVID-19. According to a recent study in August at the University of Waterloo, they filter less than 10% of exhaled droplets. You can do the math, but if I was only 10% effective at my job, chances are I wouldn't be employed for very long. Yet even with the question marks in the efficiency of masks, the bureaucrats in Raleigh have incentivized mask wearing with their quarantine policies for children. This should be all across the board statewide, right? But it's not. Onslow County Public Schools have been mask optional all year, and despite having higher COVID positive cases, they are only under a 10-day quarantine, and students are allowed to return after 5 days with a negative COVID test. No questions asked. Here in Union County, under direction of Dennis Joyner, charter schools have also been extended its shortened quarantine period. This offer has not been extended to UCPS. We remain in a 14-day quarantine, and only 0.88% of students have tested positive. Why? Is COVID more deadly in Union County than Onslow County? Is it less dangerous in charters than UCPS? No. Let me be clear. No healthy child should be prohibited from attending school. Furthermore, if this is law, why are the protocol procedures different for school systems across the state and our own county? What's fair for the goose should be fair for the gander. These varying policies violate civil rights of children. Would we force otherwise healthy children with cancer to quarantine? How about HIV? As you know, the 14th Amendment explicitly prohibits states from violating an individual's rights of due process and equal protection. Equal protection limits the state and federal government's powers to discriminate. Where is the equal protection for our kids? We do not have a mask problem. We have a quarantine procedure problem. There are politicians in this county that want to mask our kids to cover their own tails. We don't need more politicians. We need people willing to fight for our children. Don't do what's easy. Do what's right. Where you may have the authority to do so, please help keep us mask optional. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Next, we have Kathy Powers. Kathy, you're actually signed up twice. I assume that's,
Yes, the guard at the door asked me to sign up. I told him I had signed up online.
you're good.
Okay. My name is Kathy Powers. I'm a resident of Waxhaw, where my 2 children attend Waxhaw Elementary School. I have addressed the school board on multiple occasions regarding COVID protocols, and now I will address you. Over the past few months, I have written emails asking valid questions, and I have yet to receive any good answers, if any at all. I've written to Governor Cooper, Mandy Cohen, Dennis Joyner, and each member of the school board, and to each of you. So I will ask them again in hopes that someone will answer them eventually, because there are many, many parents who are looking for answers to the same questions. All of my questions are in regard to COVID protocols in our schools. 1, why are you quarantining healthy individuals? 2, why are you exempting vaccinated individuals from quarantine when we know that none of the COVID-19 vaccines prevent infection or transmission? 3, why is the health department allowing some schools to reduce days in quarantine, but others are required to adhere to 14 days? 4, can you please provide me with independent research or data that suggests keeping healthy children out of school has a positive effect on their well-being? 5, can you please provide me with independent research or data that shows the psychological effects of mask wearing on children has a positive effect on their well-being? 6, how are you actually proving that COVID-19 is spreading in schools? 7, how can you prove that any child who tests positive for COVID was infected at school, masked or not? 8, can you please provide me with data that shows how many quarantine students test positive during that quarantine? And if they do, can you please prove to me that positive tests resulted from being in school? 9, why are you discounting natural immunity by not accepting antibody or T-cell immunity test results as an opportunity for those already infected with and recovered from COVID to remain in the classroom? And 10, what is the goal or the end game of the quarantine procedures? If you do not know the answers to any of my questions, then you are blindly regulating and disrupting the education of all UCPS students, and that is criminal. I have been battling poor public health decisions, regulations, and laws for the past 6 years up in New York, so I am no stranger to this fight. Our movement is only growing stronger. We demand answers, and we will get them one way or another because we are getting angrier and angrier as the days go on. Politicians can try to stand in between me and the health of my children, but I will push you aside and I will win in the end. Hell hath no fury like a mother scorned. Thank you.
Next, we have Richard Daunt.
Good evening. Richard Daunt. I'm a resident of Waxhaw here in Union County. Here to talk to you about the disastrous health policies that our schools are being forced to live under. Thanks to the quarantine policies of our public health director, thousands of healthy kids are being denied an education. Of the 5,000 plus kids who were quarantined, only 99 subsequently tested positive. What are we doing? The quarantine numbers are not being driven by sickness. They are driven by the quarantine policies. I have sent you the numbers clearly showing that we do not have an unusual number of sick children. The numbers are also being driven by mass confusion. Nurses at the schools are finding any excuse to send kids home, thanks to the mass paranoia that is being sown. We need to end the quarantines and the mass testing and go back to, if you're sick, stay at home. All over Europe, schools are going back without masks. What are we doing here in America, supposedly the land of the free and the home of the brave? We're trying to control the spread of a virus that does not even move the needle on mortality. Did you know that the average age of death from COVID is the same as the average age of death from any cause? How can we claim to be saving lives? What is the exit path from these policies, considering that the highly vaccinated countries such as Israel have seen large resurgences in cases? If you think the virus is going away, get ready to mask and test and vaccinate for the rest of your lives. As a parent, I feel like we're being threatened by medical gangsters running a protection racket. Nice schools you have there. It would be a shame if something were to happen to them. Better mask up. These policies are not about public health. They're about forcing masks on our children, and we, the parents, will not stand for it. We know masks do not stop anything from spreading, and we will not allow our children to be used as political pawns. If you think we're fired up now, just you wait. We've only just begun to fight. This is not about left or right, Democrat or Republican. It's about up or down, civilization or savagery. Which side are you on? We're watching, we are many, and we will not forget.
Deb Helms.
Good evening. Deb Helms. I live in unincorporated Union County. Thank you for giving me a couple of minutes of your time. I just want to briefly talk about the inconsistent procedures that we're being burdened with by the local health department of human services. I have witnessed firsthand the difference in quarantine procedures for schools here in this county and had to actually uproot my child in her first in-person year of school due to some of these procedures and unnecessary mask mandates. It seems an overwhelming number of children have been placed into quarantine unnecessarily, with no data being maintained by DHHS as to how many of those quarantined due to exposure students have actually contracted COVID-19. The numbers published weekly on the county's COVID dashboard would imply that not very many of them have contracted it. And it could be due to the fact that there's no real way to really track if these kids who got COVID-19, if they got it from their 15-minute exposure at school, or if they got it during their 14-day quarantine period, as they've been out here enjoying an extended summer, going to Carowinds, the aquatic center, and basically just living their life. It's hard to justify making decisions on data when there is no solid control group or variable group. The bottom line is our children need to be in school and they need to be offered the quickest path for them to return to education as possible. If other schools here in Union County and other counties in the state, such as Onslow County, can be extended that offer, I don't understand why the rules would be different for our county-funded public school system. I just ask that you please take into consideration if there's anything you can do with keeping our children in school mask-free, please do so. My child missed her kindergarten year of school because she has medical issues that prevent her from wearing a mask. She is so happy to be in school these first couple of weeks. Please do whatever you can and don't take that away from her. She deserves an education, and I hope that you can help with that, please. Thank you.
Todd Fuller.
Good evening, Board. Thank you. I can speak to you about COVID-19 pediatric risk for Union County. I'm Charlotte resident Todd Fuller, father of 3 kids myself. All 5 Fullers COVID survivors. I'm a data scientist with several licenses in analytics, fortunate to be a graduate of the nation's first Masters of Science and Analytics program at NC State. Graduates leverage data to assist leaders in making decisions in many fields, as I do with one of the world's largest banks. The most recent week of COVID demographic case and hospitalization data show no reported pediatric hospital admissions for Union County, expanding further while examining data on the NCDHHS website to include Union, Mecklenburg, Hanson, Gaston, and 7 other surrounding counties, reveals no reported deaths and 14 reported pediatric hospital admissions. These 14 and their families deserve our thoughts and prayers. That's out of a pediatric population for Union in these same 11 counties of approximately 534,254 kids, as reported by the state demographer through the Office of Management and Budget. Here in Union, NCDHHS reports in its most recent week 196 pediatric cases, 2,101 when expanding out to the full 11 county area. 14 of these kids hospitalized in the entire 11 county area at over 500,000 kids. At the current rate, it would take 243 weeks over 4 years for just 1 out of 100 kids to be admitted to the hospital. What problem are we trying to solve by throwing a healthy kid out of class for 2 weeks when their odds of something adverse happening due to COVID are similar to being shark bitten? The school toolkit offers other safe options to reduce time out of class that don't involve masks. Does Union County want to become like my home county of Mecklenburg, where we have landfills chock full of used masks, a mountain of cases, and most recently, Camp CMS? Yes, Camp CMS, the new creation born this summer in part due to poor risk management, enrolling 31,000 CMS students, about 80% of the total enrollment of all in Union County, in-person summer school to try to save the damage done to kids that were thrown out of class in Mecklenburg, where the number of failing grades in math spiked from over 9,000 to over 31,000, similar for English language arts, in just the first semester of last year alone. Math grade level year in performance falling more than 30%, science falling more than 20%, both far worse than Union. Is this the road Union County wants to start traveling and managing COVID risk? Thank you for your time.
Next is Craig Kolash.
not quite that tall. And I don't know what you do, but that was really good. I like what you hear. My name's Craig Colash. I'm a physician in the area. I'm also a flight surgeon in the Air Force. But today I come to you as a dad of 3 beautiful girls in Union County. And what I really want to talk about, a lot of people are hitting it already, is this toolkit. I don't mean to offend anybody, because I know people put work into this, but this toolkit is awful. It's based on 3 premises. Masks are effective. Natural immunity lasts only 3 months. Quarantines work. Let's start with number 1. Settled science. Masks don't work. We know this. The WHO, 2019. Our own CDC, 2020. Did meta-analysis on all the feasible randomized controlled studies. There are 10. Quote, found no significant effect of face masks on transmission of laboratory-confirmed influenza. No evidence that wearing a mask is effective in reducing transmission of the virus. Quotes from the study. Those are the end results. The most recent random controlled study that we have, the only one that we have during COVID, the DanMask 19 trial with the Danish study with over 6,000 participants. 4,800 people stayed in the study. Those who wore masks, surgical masks, mind you, not cloth, 2% infection rate. Those who did not wear masks, 2% infection rate. No difference. You're not doing our children any favor. British Medical Journal, April 2015, the first randomized controlled study on cloth masks. Increased risk in infection due to moisture and poor filtration. We're making our kids sick. Louisville study just this past year on mask mandates. 33 states that have them, states that don't. No increased transmission, no increased infection risk. Masks do not work. We know this. Natural immunity. You give 3 months for antibodies. If anyone in public health knows this, and I know you guys know this, humoral and T-cell immunity is what's important. Study just out of Israel, longer lasting and more robust, at least 5 months at a minimum. Study out of Cleveland Clinic, up to a year, better than vaccinations. Your quarantines. Well, people have brought up some of the data, but my question is, why don't we have this data? We've had 18 months. At the beginning of this process, we didn't know what was going on. You had all summer to come up with a decent toolkit. You had all summer to look at the studies. We have the Union Academy example. Why haven't we looked at that? What kids were sent home for 14 days and came back positive? Why don't we have these numbers? Do the right thing. Keep masks optional. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. All right, next we have additions, deletions, and adoption of the agenda, and I'd like to start by, I believe all our commissioners have a copy of a resolution for sale of county properties to the Union County Board of Education, which staff is requesting that the board add to the consent agenda. So I will add this to the consent agenda if approved. Anything else? All in favor of making the addition? Aye. Okay. All right. Next, we have consent agenda, and make a motion we can adopt the consent agenda as amended. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I'd like a point of personal privilege before he shoots out. Mr. Fuller, you probably don't remember me.
I do.
Okay. I knew you were the tallest man ever walked through my house, and I was going to bring it up. Commissioner Simpson is an NC State graduate, and Todd Fuller is a NBA player that came from NC State. So,
Yeah, I might have graduated there too.
sir.
I might have graduated from there too.
Yeah.
Dennis, say hi to Dr. Knapp for me.
Yeah, and you should call your friend Greg and ask him his status on what you just spoke about.
I have it.
Okay. Next, we'll talk, is item 27, old business. And we'll have a COVID update.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, tonight we wanted to provide an update on COVID-19 in Union County. Our Health Director, Dennis Joyner, will provide an overview of data relevant to Union County. And we also have with us Denise White, Facility Executive and Chief Nurse with Atrium Healthcare, and Mike Lutz, Senior Vice President with Atrium Healthcare, to provide an update on the impact of COVID on our local hospital and the impact to Atrium. Dennis will start with sharing his data, and then Denise will come up and provide a few comments as well.
Thank you, Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you. It's been 18 months dealing with COVID, and obviously, like many people, it's been an extremely challenging time for all of us, and it continues. We saw some good indications over the summer as we saw some of our numbers decrease, but we are in a period right now where we're seeing an increase. And these are some state pieces of data that look at key areas that the state looks at for measuring COVID, among many other items. One is hospitalizations, daily number of people hospitalized. Those have been increasing over the last month. Cases, in general, the 7-day rolling average that you see at the bottom left, they have been increasing as well. And you can see that it approaches the levels that we saw in December of last year when we were seeing the surge last year. In terms of positive tests and the percentage of those tests that are positive, we've seen those increase as well. Statewide now is above 14%. As well as ED visits that are for COVID-like illness that are presenting to the ED. We've seen those increases as well here in the recent month. Looking across North Carolina, every county now in North Carolina is in a high transmission position as defined by the CDC. And so we are clearly concerned about the increase that we're seeing. Much of this is driven by the Delta variant, which is a more transmissible, more infectious variant than we have seen in other parts of COVID in previous months. If you look at in Union County, following the number of cases that we've seen over 2020 and 2021, just focusing on July and August, in August of just this past August, we saw a 319% increase from July, the previous month. If you look at it from a year ago, we've seen a 214% increase from last year. So clearly, we are in a surge in terms of the number of transmissions that we're seeing in the community. This is a graph of our 7-day rolling average of new cases in Union County. And as you can see from the far right tail here, looking at the light blue line, we're about where we were in December of last year in terms of the number of cases that we're seeing. Our test positivity in Union County, which is another indication of the level of transmission that we're facing, has seen an increase as well. These are the number of tests. The bars that you see are the number of tests that are being done on a weekly basis, and the percentage is the line graph that you see there. We have been above 15%. We're now above 16%. The goal in terms of test positivity is to try to get that below 5% is what is considered a manageable level of transmission in the community. From the CDC's perspective, the different levels of transmission that they define in terms of low, moderate, substantial, high, you'll see that we are in the high level, transmission level right now. And for the most part, in December, January, and February of last year, we were in that same level. And as you see, I mentioned earlier, in the summer, you see us down in the moderate level. So we had some good months over in the end of May into June and July. But August with the variant really, we saw a huge spike. In terms of cases by age groups, they have been pretty consistent over the last 6 months for the most part. I will point out that there has been a slight increase in the 0 to 17 in terms of the number of cases that we've seen in terms of age groups. But for the most part, even though the numbers have increased overall, the percentage by the age groups you see there has been fairly consistent. In North Carolina, some of the highest groups that are growing right now is the 25 to 49, as well as the 0 to 17, which is one of the steeper inclines. And much of this is also a characteristic of the Delta variant, which seems to impact the younger population a little bit more than others. You'll see from the hospitalization information that you'll hear in just a moment, I think that we're seeing hospitalizations that are affecting younger population as well. Now, in terms of hospitalizations, looking at our region, we are the pink line is the Metrolina region, which is the essentially that's the Charlotte metro region and the surrounding counties, this line here. These are the number of currently hospitalized COVID patients. You can see from August, we saw a pretty sharp increase in that, along with the triad, which represents the fastest growing in terms of our the state's regions for hospitalizations. One of the big things that we're certainly focusing on is vaccinations and increasing vaccinations in the community. Clearly, the more that folks are vaccinated, the better it is. We clearly understand now that COVID, for the most part, the vaccines have been effective in terms of preventing severe illness and death. We, like the rest of the state and nation, recognize that with the Delta variant, there are sometimes breakthrough cases. And so it's not that it's going to prevent everybody from getting COVID, but for the most part, once folks get COVID, they seem to do much, much better in terms of their illness, and it doesn't require hospitalization, and at an increasing amount doesn't result in death. So vaccinations are a critical piece to us moving forward, just providing a base of protection in our community. Currently, we stand at about 53% of the 12 years of age and older who are fully vaccinated. That's a little bit under the state percentage there of 58, 59%. These are just some other counties in our particular region that looks at how we compare in the region. So for the most part, it is an important piece for us to focus on, and we will continue to do that. Just because I know a lot of attention has been given to vaccinations and looking ahead, we currently are providing vaccinations for immunocompromised individuals. That was a recommendation given over the past month. And we're awaiting further guidance by mid-September on booster vaccinations. And these would be for folks who have been vaccinated, completed their full series. The guidance that we're waiting on from the FDA is essentially in terms of what the sequence is going to be. How long is that going to be? Is it going to be 6 months or is it going to be 8 months in terms of when they're recommended for booster vaccinations? And there's still, still some discussion around that. So we're preparing for that, but certainly we are not pulling the trigger on that yet until there's the information is available.
Dennis, is the booster for the new variant, or is it a booster of the COVID-19?
Well, the new variant is COVID. It's just there's been multiple variants that make up what COVID really is. It's just a more virulent level of COVID. The vaccines all are responsive, they do provide a level of protection from the Delta variant. It's not as protective for mild infection as it was for like the Alpha variants and some of the earlier variants that we saw, which is ultimately why we're seeing some of the breakthrough cases. But I do want to point out that even though we see some breakthrough cases, I don't want it to seem like that it's not, it doesn't have any effectiveness. I mean, the vaccines were designed with the intention of trying to prevent serious illness and death. And so far, the vaccines have continued to perform very well in that category. So with that, I'll ask Denise if she will come forward and share a little bit about the hospital impact.
Dennis, I have one question. I'm gonna get my booster when it's available. Will y'all be do you see y'all doing it at the health department like you did it to start with?
Yes, we anticipate that we'll be doing vaccinations in sort of mass events because, early on, if they stage it so people that should be getting it who's 6 months out or 8 months out from their completed vaccine, that would be folks that we were, vaccinating in the beginning of 2021. So that was those large crowds that we were seeing. We do anticipate having mass clinics there at the health department to provide those vaccines. The other good thing about this is that we've had a little bit of time for vaccinations to get into the private provider community. And so folks that have, a medical home may also have other opportunities of getting vaccinations as well. So it's not going to be just on us and the hospital, which essentially was sort of who it was at the beginning of the whole vaccination rollout. We anticipate that it's going to be a lot of demand on us on one hand, because I know the hospital setting is so strapped right now in terms of just the volume and keeping up. They're probably not going to have the ability to do as much of the mass events that they were doing early on. But
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening, everybody. Thank y'all for having me tonight. I'm Denise White. I'm the Facility Executive and Chief Nurse at Atrium Health Union. I've worked for Atrium Health for 33 years. I've been at the hospital here in Monroe for 19 years, and I've been a nurse, I hate to say this, for almost 40 years. It'll be 40 years in March. So I will start by saying that one of the reasons I'm here tonight is just to really share with you what the real-life experience is like on the front line with our team. The last 18 months have been a challenge like I've not seen in my nursing career. We have really been through a lot as a healthcare team. The workers that we have working every day, not just at the hospital here, but at all hospitals across the country, truly are heroes based on what they've been faced with. We were faced with a pandemic that we really didn't know anything about, and they've really risen to the occasion to make sure that patients get the care that they deserve every day in some pretty challenging times. One of the things that we were really fortunate to celebrate is back in June, we had some days where we didn't have any COVID patients in the hospital, and that was the first time that we'd experienced that in over a year. So there was some times there that we really were having a little bit of a celebration. But just since June, the percentage of hospitalizations has gone up about 800% in North Carolina. And what we're seeing now is the age of the patients that we have now are about 10 to 15 years younger than the population that we saw prior to the Delta variant. So it's a younger group. The Delta variant is much more virulent. It's much more contagious. Unfortunately, the patients that we're seeing are much sicker. And they get sicker quicker. That sounds very simple, but that's exactly what we're seeing today where we work and what we see every day. One of the things that we do know, and Dennis mentioned this, is vaccines work. We do know that about 90 to 95% of the patients that we see at Atrium Health, Novant, and Caremont together, we looked at some numbers, about 100 patients, there's about 1,000 patients admitted that have COVID, and of those, about 92% of the ones are unvaccinated. And when you look at patients that are on ventilators, about 97% of those patients are not vaccinated. So we do know vaccines work. We do know that we are seeing people, even the vaccinated population, when they do get this Delta variant, they're less sick. We don't see as many hospitalizations in that population. The thing that I do want you to understand, though, is that the healthcare team is exhausted. It's an exhausting day at work, because what we're doing is we are struggling with bed capacity. As these patients come in, a lot of patients are being held in our emergency departments. This is a trend that you're seeing everywhere, waiting for beds because we're full. We're full of not just COVID patients, but other patients, and they're having to wait on beds. And that further straps the system, and it also makes our team have to work a lot harder as they're caring for this increase of patients that are coming in. One of the things that I will say is that in the past 2 weeks, we've seen about a 61% of patients increase in the number of patients that go on a ventilator due to the Delta variant. So what we're seeing in the news, the numbers that Dennis talks about, the numbers that you see, it's what's happening here in Union County. It's happening across our state, and it's happening across the country. So the pandemic is real. It's what we're living every day. And we really want to make sure that we're partnering as much as we can to get our community vaccinated, to do everything we can. Yeah, masks are not perfect, but we do know mask works, social distancing works, hand hygiene works. We know that that does help. So one of the things that we just want to make sure that we're here for our community to provide health care every day. We're going to provide it regardless of their vaccination status or not. We're here for all. We want to make sure we can do everything for our community that we can. So we are proud of the opportunity to serve our community, but we also want everyone to realize that what you're seeing on the news is real here in Union County. The pandemic is real. The Delta variant is causing a lot of challenges for the healthcare system here, and we do appreciate the opportunity to serve, and we want to be here for everyone for the duration. So thank you for this opportunity to present information.
Anyone have any questions for Denise?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you, Denise. Just anecdotally from your experience, have you seen any patients, let's say, requiring intubation, serious care that are school age, like 6 to 18?
Those patients typically are transferred to our Levine Children's Hospital, and they have had those patients in Levine Children's Hospital.
Have you seen many, or?
I don't know the exact numbers. I'm sure I can get out. I want to say it was around 72 that they had admitted at one time, or is the number, but I don't want to quote that number because I'm not sure. But we do transfer them to Levine because that's where our specialists are.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Denise.
Thank you.
Good seeing you. I'm going to take a point of personal privilege myself, and I had the opportunity to speak with Michael Lutz, which I see you in the back. Michael took the opportunity while we were talking he was going to chastise me for not being vaccinated, but I have had both my shots, and Michael, I thank you for that. And he also explained the value of masks in close quarters. Is that a fair statement, Mike? And I just want to thank you. I know that y'all have the entire community's best interest, and I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Question? Okay. Next, we have new business. And number 28 is appointment to the South Piedmont Community College Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees of South Piedmont Community College consists of 14 members, with 3 of those members being appointed by the Union County Board of Commissioners. Christopher Dugan serves on that board as one of the Union County appointees. Mr. Dugan's term on that board has expired. The vacancy has been advertised in accordance with the Board of County Commissioner rules of procedure. Mr. Dugan has submitted his application for reappointment. No additional applications have been received. I'll make a motion that we reappoint Christopher Dugan to the South Piedmont Community Board of Trustees. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next, we have appointment of an ETJ member to the Town of Wingate Joint Land Use Board. Wingate's Town Council adopted a resolution on August 17, 2021, requesting that the Union County Board of Commissioners appoint 2 ETJ members for the Town of Wingate's Land Use Board in accordance with NCGS 160D 307. The resolution states that the Wingate Board of Commissioners by ordinance is disabling the current Planning Board and Board of Adjustments for the boards to be combined in a new member-appointed board. The 2 ETJ members' vacancies have been advertised in accordance with the Board of Commissioners' rules of procedure. A copy of the notice and the board application form was provided to the town clerk. 4 applications have been received. Myra Tomlin, Philip Austin, Blair Stiegel, and Kevin Stewart. Union County GIS has confirmed that all applicants reside within the ETJ area.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to nominate Myra Tomberlin and Blair Stegall to the Wingate ETJ positions.
Okay. Have a motion. Any other nominations? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item 30 is appointment of commissioners to represent the Union County on the Partners Board of Directors. Partners Health Management is requesting that the Board of Commissioners appoint a commissioner or commissioner designee to represent Union County on the Partners Board of Directors. Secretary Cohen has recently approved the increase in the number of seats on Partners Board of Directors to accommodate the new counties that have aligned with Partners. In accordance with Partners bylaws, terms of members of the board are for 3 years with eligibility for reappointment for additional 3 years. The first term of Union County representative will be effective September 7th until June 30th. Commissioner Williams has indicated his willingness to serve as a Union County representative on the Partners Board of Directors. I make a motion to appoint Commissioner David Williams to represent Union County on Partners Health Management Board of Directors. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Manager, your comments, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 2 this evening for the board. One, I would like to recognize all of the Union County employees that recently participated in the United Way Day of Caring in our community. That was on August the 28th. For those of you who are not familiar with the Day of Caring, that's a Saturday work day where we put together teams of employees, not only from Union County government, but other employers who support the United Way of Union County. The United Way staff puts together community projects for us. Typically, we visit the homes of individuals who are elderly or otherwise cannot care for the exterior of their home. And we do a lot of tree trimming, bush trimming, mowing, weed eating, flower planting, mulching, and the like. But it's a way for us as an organization and our employees to give back to our community and help those in need. And I want to say thank you so much for all the work and effort that you put in to this and giving back to our community. Next, I would like to recognize a recent appointment that I was just made aware of today. Ms. Nina Chaffin, who is our Public Library Director, was recently appointed to the North Carolina Library Certification Commission. The Library Certification Commission was formed in 1938, and it sets the minimum standards for public librarians across the state of North Carolina to protect and maintain public library resources, to ensure the professional management and administration of library services, and to meet the personal requirements for state aid administered by the State Library of North Carolina, and to guarantee the best possible library service to all North Carolinians. Ms. Chaffin is one of 5 individuals who serve on this board that reviews and maintains the qualifications and issues these certifications. It's a high honor for her and a high honor for Union County to have her selected for this role, and we would like to all congratulate her at this time for that. And I believe Nina's already left this evening, but she was here earlier, but we're very proud of her. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Simpson.
No comments.
Commissioner Rushing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to appreciate and thank all the people who came and spoke tonight. I think that the message was well heard, and I want to thank our staff, county manager and assistant managers and Dennis Joyner. I think have been in meetings about all day over issues going on, and for the folks that did speak, I want you to know that there are people in your government that are actually actively trying to figure out solutions to this, and hopefully something was worked out today that will answer the questions to get the kids back in school, because there's nothing more important in Union County than education, and if you only have to go back to our recent past to see that what we were known for is good schools and low taxes, and good schools is very important in this county, and I'm very proud. I think that the staff has been working through trying to work with the school system and getting that handled. Mike Lutz was here earlier. I was going to pick with him a little bit, but he's already left. But I can promise you don't want COVID, because the bill I got approaching $4,000 for a 30-minute IV drip. I would dread to be in there for a day or two or a week and see what the bill would be then. So I used to think the most expensive land in Union County was down in Marvin or Weddington. I think it's down here on Franklin Street in Monroe. So thanks again to their staff. Thanks again to the folks who spoke tonight, and hopefully we can get this solution to get those children back in school. Thank you.
Commissioner Ray.
All the commissioners on this board bring something very valuable to it. When Michelle told us at the agenda meeting about this appointment to partners thing, she said this is a pretty heavy lift for whoever does it. And I just want to commend Commissioner Williams for doing it. He will do a great job. He's probably the most qualified, and you continue to amaze me and surprise me at all you can do, and I appreciate you doing this. She said it's a pretty big job, so.
Yikes.
That's all.
Commissioner Williams.
I'll do my
respond to
best.
that?
Thank you, Commissioner Rape, and I have a lot to learn. I mean, I'm still new in this job, and it's been stimulating, and every day and every week it seems I learn something significant and something new, and I'll bring my best efforts to this new role. I just also want to similarly to Commissioner Rushing, just thank the speakers that spoke during informal comments. I think there were 6, and 5 of those 6 are Union County citizens, and their concern and their passion is palpable and wasn't lost on this commissioner. Thank you.
And I'd like to say thank you to staff, Mr. Manager, Michelle, Dennis. I've spent time with them today, and Stoney's right. We've worked on this. They've worked on this all day. And Mr. Joyner, you take some lumps because you're passing through the state health department's recommendation on that toolkit, but we appreciate what you do. And we wouldn't have got through that pandemic without you and your staff like you had. I appreciate that. Additionally, I'd like to thank our deputies that continually show up here to ensure we have a safe and orderly meeting. We do appreciate what y'all do every day, and I just wanted to thank you. And with that, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Huh?
Before you adjourn, we believe that the agenda, that the board adopted the agenda as amended, but not the consent agenda. Could we get a vote and a motion?
Yes, ma'am. I got carried away. I apologize. Thank you for bringing that out. We need a motion to accept the consent agenda as amended, right, Lynn? That's why she normally sits here to keep me straight, and I missed that. So, have a motion to adopt the consent agenda as amended? Aye. All right, thank you, Lynn. Now I'll make a motion to adjourn.